Dear anatomy friends, I am Vivek, an anatomist myself and also a 3D artist. Today, let me demonstrate you how to make simple 3D models, very fascinating, and how we can use them in our own lectures, presentations, or even in research papers, for example. What you see on the screen are my own models. In this particular one, I have segmented the skeleton out of a CT scan, but then I have added the muscles on top of them. This one is the microscopic anatomy. You can see some fibroblasts there and lots of collagen fibers, small blood vessels, the epithelial cells, hair follicle obviously, so this is a skin model. A cool embryology animation. It's very simple, but it still explains you how the gut tube is formed and how it is getting its primitive blood supply from the aorta through its, the foregut, midgut, and hindgut arteries, namely your celiac, SMA, IME, all those stories. But the cool thing is, I am able to make this model myself so that I can show the details to my students. I will take you through the basics of 3D modeling and animations, and I'm sure that you will enjoy this and you can make your own models for your purposes. This is one of my favorites on the screen. You are seeing the viscera of the pelvis, female pelvis of course, and I have thrown a small sheet of peritoneum on it just to demonstrate how the peritoneum is reflected on the different organs. It's so cool, isn't it? I really love this. Okay then, welcome aboard. We can go around and start from the basics, creating all the models. Download and install the Blender software from blender.org website. It's completely free, available both for Windows and the Mac OS. You can also go to the support menu here to find the user manual for the entire Blender software and also some useful tutorials to make the 3D models. When you open Blender for the first time in your computer, this is what you see. You can see the list of options to choose from, and here are the recently opened windows. We can go to General to start with. This box or the default cube will always be seen when you open the Blender software. Now before starting, just a couple of things I suggest you to do. You can go to the Edit at the top, come down to Preferences, and under Key Map, go to the spacebar action and you can set it to search. I have done this for search. That means when I want to look for something, I simply press the spacebar and then I get the search window where I can type something and then look for it. The next thing is you go to the menu called add-ons. Just have a look at this for now. You don't have to do much, but maybe it's a good idea to add some of the add-ons called add curves extra objects or add mesh extra objects. It's just clicking and activating some of these. You do not have to save anything because everything is automatically saved at this point. Now we can look at the user interface or the platform of the Blender software. This is what it looks like when you load some object into it. Here I have added a small larynx model that I did for my teaching. These kinds of models are called low poly models because they are just done with some basic shapes. Okay. What you see here at the top is like any other software. This is the menu bar. And on the side here, this is the toolbar. You would recognize if you have done Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator that the window looks similar to those software. You can notice that now we are in the object mode. Look at the left top corner, and you can also change that to edit mode if you want to. I will explain those in a while. But what we need to know is when you are in object mode, the tools are slightly different. When you are in the edit mode, the tools in the toolbox are different. Coming to the right side of the screen, you notice that now we are in the solid mode Okay, this is the solid viewing mode where you see the complete object as solids. There is also another view called the X-ray view. If I click on this, see now the object becomes transparent and you are actually able to see what is hiding behind one object. In this case, I have put a foreign object into the layering so that is visible in the X-ray mode. You can turn it on or turn it off depending on what we need to see. On the far right side is the scene collection. This is nothing but the name list of all the structures I have used here. It's a wise idea to name them properly so that you don't forget or mess up with things. This is the thyroid, the hyoid, cricoid, for example. If I want to turn off the visibility of one of these objects, I just go to the I sign there, turn it off. See, now the hyoid is missing. You can put it back, or you can take off the thyroid, you can put it back. And whatever you click, it's actually highlighting here, and it's also highlighting here in the main scene, and that makes it easy for us to identify the structures. Below this, here, this is called the property box. That means if I want to adjust the property of any of these, I can go and do it here. So for example, if I want to change the color of the thyroid cartilage, yeah, I can do it here, or there are lots of options to play with. At the far bottom here, this is the timeline. When we do some animations, this is the place we come and check them out. So I think I have already got something here. So run the animation. Yeah, I can see that it's jumping up and down. Good. I can stop it if I want to. So for now, I will hide the timeline by pulling it down so that we have got a bigger window to explore what we are looking at. When you are in the solid mode, click this down arrow. You can actually choose several things from here. For now, go to the color. You can select random. See what happens. All the individual objects have taken their own random color. That's something easy to view when you are still making the model without giving any colors, so that you can easily differentiate what is what. So let us leave it like that for the time being. If you see the background looks just like a graph sheet that we have been using in our maths class in our school days. Yeah, it is exactly the same. We are seeing the axis here, y-axis, x-axis, the z-axis is hidden, and the central dot is the origin point. You can actually go here at the top again, and you can turn everything off if you don't want them. But I keep them because it makes my measurements easier sometimes. When you are in the object mode, you can actually go to add mesh, and you can add new objects like this cube, or again you can add a sphere, for example. See, now what happens, we have the cube but the sphere is missing. The reason is, whatever new objects we add, they are added around the central axis. Okay, so the cube is actually hiding the sphere. If I go to the scene selection and if I hide the visibility of the cube, then I will be able to see the sphere. Okay, or what I can do, I can just move the cube aside and the sphere aside to see them both. Fine. So the point is, whatever we are adding, they are added along the origin point of the scene. This is about the object mode, where you can view the objects, change some of the properties, or add new shapes into the scene. But what if I want to edit this particular object? That means, what if I want to change the shape of this object? Then I go to the edit mode, which is right below the object mode. Now see what has happened. The smooth surface of the sphere has disappeared and we are able to see lots of dots. These dots are called the vertices, or vertex in singular. I can select one of the vertex, and if I pull it, it is actually going to change the shape of the structure. And if you go to this edit mode thing, next to that there are three small boxes which says vertex, edge and face selection. So what does it mean? If I click the edge, then I'm able to control the individual margins of the shape. Or if I click on the face, I'm able to select and change the individual face or the small surfaces which are making the shape. So I can either select the dots, the boundaries or the individual faces. Now we are getting into the actual process. If you are just observing the tutorial till now, maybe it's a good idea to start following what I'm doing here. What you see on the screen is the American English keyboard. That's what I'm using, and I'm also using a Mac computer. And the reason I mention is the British English keyboard is slightly different and the Windows keyboard is also different from what I am using. One very useful tool here is, look at the top left corner of the keyboard. I'll use the annotating tool here. So I'm talking about this button, that's a zoomed one here. If you press this, it helps us to change the view of the scene. So what does it mean? If I am rotating it somewhere and then I don't know where I started, I click that particular button that I showed you, the different views appear. You can click on front to come to the front view, okay? Or click it again, you can see the right side of the object, you can see the top, you can see the bottom, etc. So that's a very useful tool when you are modeling and looking at the different views. Having said that, the annotation tool is also very handy. You can actually use this during your presentation and to say what you are doing. You long press the same icon, you'll get the eraser. You can now go and erase whatever we have done. So it is similar to PowerPoint, but sometimes what I do, I take my laptop to the lecture. I do not really upload the model anywhere, but I directly open my laptop and show the models and then write here during my lecture to explain what I'm talking about. The other very useful tool is this button, which is nothing but the slash button in our keyboard. What does it do? If you click on any object and then click the slash button, it isolates that particular object. So that's very handy when you are talking about the cricoid cartilage, for example. You click on the cricoid and then slash, it shows only the cricoid. You can describe this, talk about this, and then same button again, it goes back to its original view. Now we will be looking at the last and most important technical details before we actually step into the modeling process. Here is a small sheet that describes the common mouse controls and the hotkeys that we will be using in the future. What it actually says is it's describing the functions of the left mouse click, right mouse click, and the middle mouse click, etc. If I want to select any of these objects in the object mode, I just go and click on it. So clicking, we usually use the left mouse button, and that's what I have been doing here. Anywhere, whatever I want to choose, I do the left click. If I do the right click, it actually selects but comes up with different options like anywhere else in the computer. So click here, it gives some extra options. In the edit mode, if I want to select several vertices here, I just go to the box selection and then I can do something like this, okay? Or if I want to choose only some particular vertices in irregular places, I go here, but go to the lasso tool to select some irregular shapes. Okay, so this is something I routinely do in Photoshop. Maybe some aspects in PowerPoint also you will be doing this. The most important thing now is the middle mouse button. So that is one thing I suggest for the new modelers. You can use a mouse when you are doing the modeling instead of using the laptop directly. You can do everything with laptop, but it is actually easier when you do the modeling with the mouse. When I scroll the middle mouse button, see what is happening. The entire scene is coming in and out. Okay, so this is as if I'm walking towards the scene or towards the objects, and going back. This is done by rolling the middle mouse button. Instead, if I click the middle mouse button and when I move the mouse, I'm actually rotating the scene. It's as if you are rotating your head and looking at the world around you. And as I said, if I want to go back, I can click the top left button in my keyboard and select the front view just to go back to the same place. The other thing is, if I click shift in my keyboard, then middle mouse button, move the mouse, I can actually move the world left to right, top to bottom, or anywhere around. Okay. So what we did now is we did not control any of the individual objects. Instead, we controlled the entire scene in and out, or rotation, or side to side. Okay. So these are actually listed here in the left mouse, right mouse, and the middle mouse. We were controlling the complete scenes. The last exercise is how we are going to control the individual objects, how we are going to manipulate them. Okay, so now let us delete the sphere. For deleting, it is just selecting it and press X in the keyboard, it deletes. Now back to the model. What if I want to move this thyroid cartilage away? So I select it, means the left mouse click, type G in your keyboard and then move the mouse, it takes it away. Okay, so G is for grab. You select something, G for grab, move it away, leave it there, or you can put it back by the usual function, which is Control Z, that is the undo function in the computer. So move, put it back. So that is for moving. For scaling, scaling means increasing or decreasing the size. You can again click on any of the structures, press S in the keyboard, and then move your mouse. It's either enlarging or decreasing depending on where you move the mouse. Okay, so you can undo that again. For rotating that object, select R for rotation. So you just press R in your keyboard and then move your mouse. It will rotate the object anywhere. Now a couple of things to note is when you are moving, you can select this, press G, you can move the object anywhere. But if you press G and then either X, Y, or Z, then you are locking the object to the particular axis. You move the object only along that axis. Okay, so that means if I want to move the hyoid bone slightly up, G, Z, then it moves slightly up or down instead of shaking on its side. So that's a handy thing. We have already written it here. So G for grab, that is moving, S for scale, that is increasing or decreasing the size, and R for rotation of the object. That can be locked and done individually either in the X, Y, or the Z axis. We are almost done. The last tip that I would try to give you is whichever object you make, once you make it, you right click, go to set origin and keep that origin to geometry. Okay, so same here, it is already there, I believe. Oh, the reason is, see, if I want to rotate this object, then look at that yellow dot, that is the origin for that particular object, and rotation will happen around that axis. So I click R and rotate, you can see what is happening, and same for the trachea, it's happening, and maybe trachealis muscle, that's the same story. But I have put the origin of the hyoid bone somewhere else, so if you click on that, you don't really see the yellow dot. Now if I rotate the hyoid bone, see what is happening, it's actually rotating away from the scene because his axis is somewhere on the on the left bottom of the screen. Okay, so it's not going to do anything good. So that is the reason I say you should always go and make sure that your origin is set to the geometry. So same way, if I want to increase the size of the thyroid cartilage, I click S, I increase the size. Thyroid enlarges or reduces in size in the same place, whereas for the hyoid bone, okay, maybe now I changed it, so it is back in place. Or if I move the origin to somewhere else, see, it's enlarging but it is moving somewhere else. Okay, so go to set origin to geometry, make sure it is clicked all the time. I actually figured it out myself much later during my journey, so it is a really useful handy tip. Okay, so that's all from me with all the technical details. Now you can take some time to practice all these small handy tips that we just discussed, and once you are happy with that, we can actually jump and start modeling proper anatomical structures by ourselves. Thank you. Here is an apple I made last week to demonstrate the same Blender software to my students. So you can see that there is a bookworm inside and a stalk and some leaves in the apple. I have also added some animations here. But today, instead of the apple, we are going to make a kidney with its hilum and renal vessels to demonstrate the anatomy, plus step by step how we are going to use the Blender software.